Hey guys, thanks for joining us this week. We wanted to dive into a little bit about the hustle mentality and whether or not you are hustling yourself to success or are you hustling yourself to burnout, because we feel like this is a really important topic.
Right. Yeah. So today we really want to ask you what your goal is and whether your goal is to work all the time or if it really is to work more on the things that move the needle in your business so that you can spend the rest of your time enjoying the fruits of your labor, I guess. And really I think what we want to do today is share a little more about Crystal and I and our personal stories, the things that we've seen success in, and maybe some of the failures that we've had along the way, trying to really make this thing work.
Absolutely. And I know that most of you out there have probably started your business and you want all of the things that you feel like come with the entrepreneur lifestyle and, having freedoms and flexibilities, kind of going back to like what you thought your goal was going to be when you started your business. And if you were like me, when I started my business, 6 some odd years ago, I didn't think I was going to, be working every day. I wanted to have schedule flexibility. I wanted to be there for my kids and have time off, but still be able to, bring in extra income, things like that. So if you were hoping that you'd be working all day, every day as an entrepreneur, it's probably not what you were expecting. You were probably hoping for a little bit more of that flexibility. And so I think that, to get started, we can share, some of the stories that we have that kind of, helped us get to realize that the hustle mentality is not what we're about and how important that is to us in our businesses.
Yeah. So I think we should share stories of how maybe we got started. I'll go first. If you're new here and you're just now listening to this, I own ivorymix.com, and it's a membership of stock photos and various other resources to help business owners make content marketing easier and more fun. But before I did that, I had a full-time career and it was in the interior design space. And in order to work on my side hustle while I had my career, I had to actually feel like I was hustling. Did I have to do that? No, but that's actually what I ended up doing, which meant for me, when I very first started, it meant I was working early in the morning on my side business and then going to work in my full-time job. And then in the evening, probably not working very much, but occasionally I would have to, maybe do an hour of work in the evening in order to prepare for the day ahead. It wasn't every day, but I definitely utilized my most creative hours for my business. That probably meant that I went to my 9 to 5 job, like less creative and already a little tired. And that is the hustle feeling. You know what I mean? Like when you feel like you're headed towards burnout. And I did multiple times in trying to grow my business, but I wouldn't probably do it any differently, except for maybe I would have jumped on hiring help or jumping into certain online courses or learning more faster instead of like trying to always go the free route, because I think that really extended my business growth more than it needed to be. So, truthfully, when I got started, I'd spent every morning working on my business. And then on the weekend, at least every weekend or so, I would spend at least one day mostly focused on my business, as well as splitting that time with being a mom of 3. And so I tried to find a balance. That's where I started. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah. So for me, I started in the corporate world as well. I was more on the HR and recruiting side of it. So hustle was just what we did when you're in recruiting. And if you're not familiar with, me, if this is the first time here as well, I own Crystal Clear Creative Studios. And so I'm a photographer now, and I have a few people on my team that help me with doing photo shoots for businesses to help them increase, their marketing and sales efforts. But for me, when I started off in recruiting is just the HR part of hiring. So companies have recruiters that come in and do a lot of hiring, but I worked for a call center that housed for big companies like AT&T and Uverse and like all of these huge organizations that had to have these massive call center hubs for customer service. And so when we were hiring, you want to talk about hustle mentality. There were times where I was working 10 or 12 hours a day, or through, Super Bowl week, we worked 70 hours in 1 week. So, it was definitely hustle, and I burned out, and I started my business because I wanted flexibility. I wanted some freedom. I wanted to be able to take back some of those things that I didn't have in that job because it was so high demand. And I wanted to be available for my kids, and I wanted to be happier, right? All the reasons why some of you are probably going, yep. That's the reason why I wanted to leave my job, or I wanting to leave my job. So I totally get that. And for me, when I got started in my business, it was learning to turn that off because I was in that mode. And so I felt like, oh, I've got to work all the time. I've got to be busy. I've got to be doing things. I need to be working this many hours and, getting all this stuff done. So I had to kind of unlearn that hustle mentality. And I feel like that was, a big kind of hill in the process for me in the first couple of years of business.
Yeah, I think when I first quit my job in order to take this full time, I had, and I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to put this, but I had major guilt because I was like, how is this? And this is going to sound weird, but how is this so easy in terms of I can run a business, make my own schedule, and earn money and find success without having to work every day, all day long. So I guilted myself into working more. And the reality is that I didn't have to do that. And so it really started to come to shape for me when I started to burn out, because I ended up going on more walks during the day when my kids were at school because I felt like I needed quiet. And, that's weird because my kids were at school, so you would think the house is quiet, but I felt like I needed to like quiet the noise and stop being in front of my computer. And so I started going on more walks during the day, and I started to really like realize like I'm away from working, I'm taking time for myself, and the world's not, my business isn't failing. I've set systems in place to where money can come in and I don't have to sit there in front of my laptop and earn it. And so that's when I realized that my value was bigger and greater than the time that I spent on my business. And I think that's what we want to share with anyone who's listening today is that you're valued on more than just the time that you spend in growing your business. And that's what I think we want for people today. And since making that sort of mind shift in my own business, I instituted a no work day, and occasionally, more than occasionally, I break that, but that's because I'm passionate about what I do and helping people grow their businesses and create, fun content and things like that. And so just because I'm passionate, it's easy to break my own rules, but I instituted like no work days where I completely focus on my kids and things that I want to do for self-care, places I want to go, spending time with family and friends instead of thinking or working on my business. And so there's lots that's changed actually. So I want to hear more about you before I like take the whole podcast over.
Well, it's such an easy thing to like talk about. That's why I was like, oh, we've got to focus on this particular topic this time. But for me, like the surprising lesson from success is that burnout is an option, because for me, like I said, mine was unlearning this hustle mentality and this hustle state, and I kept feeling this constant sense of I've got to be doing something. So like I was constantly making up stuff like, oh, okay, well, I've done that, I've rolled out this marketing, so now I need to be doing videos, so let's go do videos, and we're going to schedule all these videos out, we're going to plan this out, we're going to do this. And so it was like I constantly felt like I had to be doing something and showing up everywhere, spinning my wheels all the time, had to be working, or I wasn't going to be successful. And the funny part is that now I'm actually working less and I'm more successful, wildly more successful than I was at that point in those first 2 years of my business, because I was burning myself out.
Yeah.
I was burning myself out doing all of that. And then I'd have those points where you stop after burnout and you're like, oh, I just want to do nothing. You would do nothing. And so, things were wrong, or I was reprioritizing the wrong things. But, biggest things for me were learning to simplify. Like, you don't have to show up everywhere. You can repurpose content. You don't have to do all the things. Testing stuff out to see what works is great. Try it for a little bit. If it's not getting a response or seeing any return on investment, drop it, move on to something else. So it was really learning to simplify, and then also set my own expectations and expectations with my clients, because I felt like I also had to answer everything all the time. Mm-hmm. Somebody emailed, I got to email them back like right now, or they're like never going to reply. You get like this whole mentality of like, I've got to be like on top of it. Cause if I'm not like responsive, like super, super responsive, then they're going to not book with me, or they're going to, the model's going to go to somebody else and go work on another project or something. And, when you set the expectations of how you want to show up in your business and what you want to do, like, that's the beauty of being a business owner. So now I got things fine tuned where people know, like, I'll reply to you within about 24 hours or so. Like, you're still going to get a timely response. I'm just not going to kill myself trying to answer all my emails.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I think it's so important as business owners, if you're listening, and based on what Crystal and I have said, some of the things that you could do to protect your time and your energy and to know that you're not headed towards burnout is you set no work times and no work zones, and you set places where you do your work versus places where you don't inside your home. You announce to everyone that's around you, like, this is my work time versus this is not my work time. And then you make promises with yourself that this is my goal of owning a business. This is how I want to feel as a business owner. And then everything that doesn't align with that goes out the window. Because if creating content for Instagram every single day is making you feel like you have to hustle in order to create that content, then that's not aligning with the whole purpose of why you're running a business. What you actually probably want to do is make a difference in your clients' lives, and also have more freedom, like Crystal was saying, in creating your own schedule and feeling, successful that way. So, like, I think having those boundaries is super important. And me personally, I've experienced so much stress and so much, like, not allowing myself to take the time to take care of myself, that I can tell you that it's made a huge difference just taking those Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays that are off limits to just focus on my family, whatever it is, even if it's just like boring stuff like chores or whatever. Like, you can't expect that you're going to be traveling the world every weekend or whatever. You certainly can, but just because you're not traveling the world doesn't mean that you shouldn't be also on the couch watching Netflix. Just because you're not doing something super exciting doesn't mean you need to be at home behind a computer screen working on your business.
Yep. I mean, it's letting your brain rest. I know I get the best clarity when it comes to creating things for the clients that I have when I allow the space for my brain to focus on other things and to get into, arts and crafts with my kids, or take them outside and do the pool for the afternoon or whatever. When I take the time away to do those things, I come back more charged and more creative in what I'm trying to work on and do. And so it's just figuring out what works for you and how you can set those boundaries. For me, initially, it was half days because my kids were, little at the time. And so it was like, okay, I'm just going to take off half the day. So the first half of the day, because I knew that was the best time, I'd sit down, I'd work on my business, get as much stuff done, get everything turned out, was really dedicated to the time. And then the afternoons, I'd spend the time with the kids and, focus more on them and doing the activities and stuff like that. So, no matter how you break it up, basically what we're trying to say is just make sure to build in that time for you so that you can actually start to create the life that you want to have, instead of having to hustle or feel like you're constantly having to do something in order to be successful.
Yeah, I think it's so important that what you do aligns with the outcomes that you want from that. Because if you're trying to force something to work, or trying to force creative ideas, or trying to force through, that work, it's going to be more difficult, more challenging. It's not going to turn out the way that you wanted it. And so giving yourself that time, like Crystal said, and that space is going to allow for things to flow. Because ultimately, as creative bosses, being in that flow state is so important. That is part of the reason why back in the day when I very first started, I used those early morning hours because I really truly was in flow, because that's when I personally am in my, flow. I can focus so much more clearly. My brain is uncluttered. I'm not thinking about all the things that happen during the day. And so finding those proper times that work well for you and the way that you work will also help. But if you go and sit down in that time and you're like, I'm just not feeling it, it's better to just step away, honestly, than try to force it. You certainly can. And if you need to, find a way to make it more fun in that moment. You know what I mean? If you absolutely need to do the work because that is the time that you dedicated, I would say that the best thing you could do is just find a way to do it in a little more of a fun way. So, like if that means going outside with your laptop because that's a change of scenery, that might be more fun. I don't know. Think of things that might be a little more fun in that moment. But if you have the option, I would definitely say if you're not feeling in the flow, just stop and don't, and give yourself space and come back to it when you feel energized, because things happen for a reason in that time because it's coming from a genuine place of creativity.
Mm-hmm. That's why I kind of shift my week around, because I initially start off with time blocks of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, photo shoots and stuff. But sometimes you wake up and you're just in that mode. And I know Kayla's been there before too, where you're like, I just can't create. Like, this is too difficult of something that I know is very simple for me to do. So I stop and I'm like, okay, let me look at my calendar real quick. Let's just see what I can swap around, because today, you know what, for some reason, I'm feeling like I could write a ton of things. So I'm just going to write some blog posts and I'm going to move the photo shoot to the next day and we're going to switch a few things around, and that's okay. So, you got to go with what you're doing. Or, sometimes for me, it's, trying to find creativity in something. So I like to do things with my hands. So if I feel like, okay, I'm not wanting to work, but I'm feeling creative and maybe I don't have a photo shoot, it's what can I paint? I have one of those adult coloring books that I get out my fine tip pencils and I'm coloring in the flowers. And, I find things that I can do with my hands to help me still recharge my batteries and create. Or it's a great time to do an activity with my kids, of course, because they love anything like that with their hands. But, I come up with different things like that just to swap that time out and that energy and find ways that I can use it constructively. So, like Kayla said, if it's not feeling like the right thing, then maybe look at your week and see some other things that you feel like you could focus on and do those instead and swap it out. And, don't feel bad if it's one of those days where you're like, nope, not doing anything, Netflix and chill. Yep. We all have those days.
I've had some of my best ideas during Netflix and chill.
Seriously. I'll get out my notepad on my phone and I'll start typing stuff out. So I'm like, oh, they just said something. This is a great idea. I got to share this with everybody.
Yeah. So I think that's great. Is there anything else that we wanted to touch on?
I think that's the biggest thing for us. I think, just knowing where your zones of genius are, creating space in your schedule, taking an opportunity to figure out what's serving you and your time and where you want your goals to be. If you don't want that hustle mentality, you want to get away from that feeling of angst and constantly having to do something, we challenge you to figure out a way to build in a half a day off or a full day off or a couple of hours that you can go do something that you love to do, or just sit on the couch and hang out for a little bit and create that space to recharge your batteries and keep yourself from getting into that, mode of burnout. And I think, if you're ready to abandon that hustle mentality or that feeling of overwhelm, I encourage you to really lean into what we're saying here. This month I think we had almost 100. Do we have almost 100?
We had, I think we had 90 something founding members.
That's amazing. So we had almost 100 founding members that joined us inside the Creative Boss Society this month. So yay. We were super excited to launch that. One member had shared some amazing words with us after just 2 weeks of being in the membership. And so I thought it'd be great to just share that with you guys so that you can see, everybody's having constant transformations, and it's a matter of whether or not you're ready to sit down and do this for yourself so that we can help you get there. I'll let Kayla maybe kind of read over that real quick.
This is what she said. I've been struggling with coming up with an idea for my future products products. And just listening to our live mentoring sessions gave her so many insights and how she could develop a wait list for her product while working on the actual product itself in the future. And she said, thank you for creating the society and for keeping it so affordable too. So what she's talking about there is one of the things that we have really gone in depth into for our Creative Boss Society members, where we're teaching our members how to launch products and services, create income and revenue in their business before actually creating the product itself. And so we're calling it the monetize before you make it method. And we're teaching that inside of Creative Boss Society, and our members are really having a lot of fun with it because it's showing them that they can work on growing their audience before actually making the product itself, which feels, I think, a little more creative and a little more fun to actually engage with your audience and then go into the flow of making the actual product or the service.
Yeah, no, I love seeing their excitement around the fact that they have already got so many people coming to their email list and people who are ready to buy, and they're just now starting to actually create the physical product itself. So it's a real change in mindset, but I think it's showing them that you can really simplify what you're doing, put good processes in place. And again, like we talked about in this episode, losing that hustle mentality and really just being able to embrace a little more freedom. So I want to ask you if you are fully committed to doing what it takes so that you can move past having no clue where to begin, not following through on your own plans, feeling overwhelmed, getting those flutters. We want to help you, basically. We want you to take the benefits of what we have with our mentoring sessions, with, creating your own plans through our kits that we have created every single month for you. And we want you to head over and check out the Creative Boss Society, because I think it's going to help change the way you're doing things and help you create more of that balance that we all want to have between our businesses and our lives. And it'll give you the mentoring and the accountability and the support that you're wanting to achieve that sustainable growth.
Yeah. So if you're interested in the Creative Boss Society, go to creativebossmethod.com/membership. We've got Creative Boss Society members actively growing their businesses, but learning how to do it in a way that really feels good. You're building your audience, you're making money and revenue, and then you're creating the experience that you want without the hustle.
I will make sure to link that in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to head over there and check it out, we encourage you to do so. You can hop into the group where you'll also have access to us being able to pop in there, as well as just the community that has already started forming around the kits and everything that we are working on for you guys in the society. So we will see you guys over there and talk to you soon.
Bye.